Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm comedian Preacher Moss. I hope you're having a blessed Ramadan. Listen, I just want to take a couple of minutes of your time to talk about Olive Branch Muslim Family Services. You know, Olive Branch Muslim Family Services represents a lot in the city of Houston. You have a lot of relief organizations throughout the country, throughout the state, but I have to say Olive Branch Muslim Family Services is one for the home team of the city of Houston. Listen, let me tell you about myself. I've always lived this idea that I'm always going to have more blessings than I'm going to have problems. And in that space, I've been able to understand that the blessings sometimes mean I can be a blessing in somebody else's life, much the same with Olive Branch Muslim Family Services. Years ago, maybe 2 years ago, we had a video and it asked the question, the profound question, imagine if it wasn't an olive branch. Not so much the organization, but the absence of compassion and mercy. Imagine if there wasn't an olive branch. Not so much a question, but a reminder of prophetic tradition that all of our prophets who have come came to advocate for the poor and uplift the suffering. Imagine if there wasn't an olive branch. Thinking about that. OBMFS. I changed the letters from Olive Branch Muslim Family Services and dug a little deeper, thinking about that prophetic tradition. So Olive Branch Muslim Family Services is really Olive Branch's mission is family success. We need your help. While you're writing out that check, brothers and sisters, think about that. What's a world without compassion? What's good music without good instruments? What's a president that's distrustful and not honest? Okay, let me get back focused. In any event, imagine if there wasn't an olive branch. Let me remind you.
We just need help.
Imagine if there wasn't an olive branch. Muslim Family Services at your command. The people who help people have to say, we need your donations, don't delay. We all have struggles from time to time, but leaders dedicated is what you find. Before another person sheds a tear, support Olive Branch, you don't have to fear. Olive Branch Muslim Family Services. Action you can see, compassion you can feel. Sing it with me. Ooh. Ooh. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm comedian Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the ShOUT show. Hope that you are having a fabulous Wednesday. Before I get started, I want to give a shout out to my big brother, Rick. Thank you for taking me out. I did my inaugural opportunity to do pickleball. It was amazing. I had a great time. And shout out to all the pickleball players that are out there. The ones out at First Baptist Church Glenarden and Recreation Center, which is a beautiful facility. You should check it out. I think the monthly fee is $15 a month. It's amazing. And all the people who were playing pickleball that were kind and patient and tried to help me with the rules and made me feel good about trying to just show up and be active. Thank you so much. Shout out to pickleball. So I mentioned pickleball and I mentioned my big brother because we were playing pickleball and he would introduce me. We're not biologicals. Excuse me. But he would introduce me and he'd say, hi, so-and-so. It's my brother Preach. Hi, son, it's my brother Preach. And one of the ladies actually went to my mom's old church, First Baptist Church in Glenarden. And she was like, Rick, I didn't know that I didn't know Mary a long time. I didn't know she had another son, da-da-da. And Rick said, we've been together since we were 4.5 years old. He goes, that's my little brother. I'm his big brother. And the lady looked and said, okay, I got it. The topic of today's show is the importance, really the importance of the value of having good family. You know, we talk so much about the nuclear family going through all these transitions with gender identity and things like that. We talk about the nuclear family being torn apart by politics, but we don't talk about and don't give kudos for the strength and the viability and the vitality of great family. Oftentimes people think that great family means that there's money to be had. No, a great family is that there's a legacy of love, compassion, mercy, and togetherness that hasn't been able to be torn apart. When I say this, it is put on a level because not everybody has great family. We have the potential in some regards to have great family. Even if we don't come from great families, sometimes we have the opportunity to grow our own great families. But today on the show, I want to talk about that at length. And I want you to start thinking about your great family. What's so great about your family? Is it you and your family, the people in your family that are great? What makes that unit so wonderful, so viable, so robust? Think about that. We'll be right back here on the show talking about the value of great family. I'm Preacher Moss. Welcome back. Before we get into our topics, I have to shout them out at the beginning of the show, else it's just not a shout out show. I want to make sure that I'm hollering out our Hall of Famers, our superstars. I want to say our most honorable mentions here on the shout out show. Some of them check in on the comment section. Some of them I just got a wing off the top of my head because they tune in and they are there supporting. So before we get started on our topic, please let's get them in here. Want to give a shout out. You know who it is. We want to give a shout out to Sister Ree. Ree, you got beat. Want to give a shout out to Mama Son. She says, I'm so very blessed to have a great family and their support, and I don't take them for granted. Yes, you do. All right. I can say that. That's my mom. Listen, I'm going to get to mothers and aunts and uncles here in a minute, but I just want to say, you're 100% right. A lot of times the verbiage that we have and the carrying on that we move away from what essentially is a bedrock of family, mothers and fathers. And I don't mean people who take up space. I mean people who are serving as touchstones and foundations and pillars of our lives as we get older. You got to really start thinking about why that is so important. Okay, next up. What's going on, Sister Reach? She said, hello, family. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh. To you, Mama Moss, Mama Son, thank you. And I also want to give a shout out to the great Aunt Maxine who's been holding it down for me while Mama Moss was not doing well, but doing great now. The rebound has been astounding. Also want to give a shout out to a Moss family stalwart. That would be Miss Eleanor Davis. Peace and blessings to you. May Allah give you shifa and a full recovery. And I got to shout out my sister, my dear sister, Ree, always taking care of her brother, making sure her big brother taken care of, whether it's food or just checking in, making sure I got a good mental checkup from the neck up, and her lovely family, Brother Derek and Brother Juwan. Peace and blessings to all of you. Thanks so much for joining us on the show. Next up, my main man, Altaf Rashid, my dear brother, my brother from another mother, but not just that. He's a Canadian envoy from the show, affectionately known as Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, coming all the way from Toronto, Canada. What's up, beloved? Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Altaf, if you can go to permissiblelaughter.com and tell me the information for the MoneyGram, I'd like to get you taken care of, brother. I think you are the last one, but I want to make sure you're taken care of. All right? Big part of our show. Next up, you know who's in the house. Bilal Salahuddin, he says, we up in here. Bilal, speaking on behalf of the Queen, Sister Sonia Dalton Salahuddin. So nice to hear from you, brother. It's so nice to hear from you, sister. Peace and blessings to you and your family. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You know, Bilal, you need to jump in and start talking about the value of great family because you're the head of a great family. You're the head of a great family. You know, some of us are younger, but it's nice to see when people have grandkids and you can actually see that generational effect of being effective family members. I'm going to talk about this as well. Next up, my main man, the Big E, all the way from South Carolina. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brother. Thank you for tuning in. I like your Cash App. Your Cash App label is pretty funny. But thank you so much for joining us. Sultana, we need to get a day for our iftar. I want it to not be on a night of power, but a day where we can actually send. We're gonna send out. We're gonna send out a link and bring everybody on the show live, and you can tell us what you have for your iftar. And you know what? You can make your well wishes here on the Shout Out Show. This is an interactive show. It's not just my show. This is your show as well. Shout out. Next up. Oh, Sister Reese, cooking now, delivery soon. Uh-oh. I think the Reese catering service is coming back, brothers and sisters. It is coming back. There are a lot of happy tummies in the city of Houston. A lot of, especially Mexican tummies. Very happy that Reese gonna be opening up that kitchen. Next up, what's the show? We didn't have Sister Satana here yesterday, and the show went very smoothly. No, I'm just kidding. That's only because it was recorded. Shout out to Sister Satana Whitfield, our executive producer of the show. And shout out to, the Whitfields. I know her mom and dad and sisters and brother, they are saints because they got to put up with Sister Satana. But, their reward is on the other side and this side. Well, the reward is, if Sultana, I'm going to check. I sent stipends for your mom and your dad. I want to make sure that they don't wind up in your Christmas account. Make sure they don't wind up in your Christmas account. All right, so let's get to the topic at hand. Are we done here? We got our Hall of Fame. Okay, so let me throw this out. The value of great family. One thing that's really, really common, or a thread here on the Shout Out Show, is that the people that come on the show are indicative of people who are part of family. When I say family, I mean the maternal, the paternal, but I also mean the overall schematics of how you raise children to be effective, how you raise young men and young women to be effective. And once you have that core, the supporting core that's outside of it, the cousins, the aunts, the uncles, the grandmothers, the grandfathers. You know, what's happened lately, and my mother can speak to this, but there used to be a time when every day, every day, when the day was over and everybody came home for work, and you came home for school, or you came home for sports, whatever, there was a thing that was convened, and it was called the dinner table. Now, the dinner table is extremely, extremely important because it provided one sustenance, but it also provided, I want to say, an opportunity, a platform to develop faculty about what the family was going through. And what I mean is, we talk about family moves. When my parents were getting their house, there was a discussion, and I was sat down by my mom and dad. And I had to be all of maybe three, maybe, I think I was four. But they started talking to me, and not about the move, but the process of the move and what it meant as a family core. That we were going someplace else. That the internal logistics of the family would change because we were in a different environment. But at the same time, the changes had to be understood, edified, and we had to be able to improve on the changes. Because buying a house back then was considered a step up in the middle class or just in your overall social mobility. It's very, very important. I remember that talk because when I got here, there were other African American families, and what was apparent from the child part of view was there were great families in his area. There was the Francis family, there was the Lowe family, there was the Lesters, the Smiths, the Browns, the Halls, the Alexanders, the Wingfield at a certain point, the Austins, the Randolphs. I'm naming off all of these families because these families had shared core values. What I mean by that is they were tracking certain things. And I think the aspect of any great family, one of the large core aspects of any great family, is that a great family derives the understanding that they are great by virtue of the fact that they have been blessed and by virtue of the fact that they can't take things for granted. Let me say that again. That they're great, but they can't take things for granted. That in the family core, if you understand the value of a great family, it's understanding that everybody in the family is going to be great at the same time. That there's going to be ebb and flows in the characters and the people in the lives of the people that we love. Some are up, some are down. Some are working, some are not working. Some are sober, some of them are high. We don't know what that space is. That some of them are happy, some are depressed. We don't know what that space is. Some are educated, some are not so educated. We don't know the space, but the generic understanding of family is framed around we must be successful. And at the core, let that be the mantra that we must be successful means that we have to reach down to the lowest common denominator of the family and pull them up. Reach down, pull them up. That becomes a benchmark, and we pull each other up. And I always often point to the whole idea of education and the family structure. I have a good friend. His family is Nigerian, and I think about seven of them. All of them went to college. All of them got their degrees. A bunch of them went on and got their masters. A couple of them got their PhDs. Some of them went on to be doctors. And I was asking him, what was the merit? How did you develop the merits of this thing of your family being successful? And he said something. He said when they came from Nigeria, the ethic was there. He said, but there was a bottom in terms of economics. That what they were doing in Nigeria was not valued the way it would be done in the United States. And I said, are you talking about careers and things like that? He said, no, I'm talking about family identity. That family identity in the United States is stronger because the United States has so many challenges. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I'm saying that the United States, with this framework of democracy, with a framework of free enterprise, drives competition. And it also drives competition within a family. And if corralled correctly, it can be beyond productive. It can be extremely, extremely rewarding and successful. And he said it's the idea that we pull each other up. Think about this. There are, no, not there are immigrants that come here who come with a very, very framed identity, a very framed family identity, who may come here with little to nothing, but in 10 years, they got a lot of something. They have a lot of something, whether it's a lot of education, a lot of business, a lot of influence, whatever it is, but they have a lot of it. I have a friend who he married a sister that's Pakistani. He was Nigerian, and he told me one day that because we were on tour together, and he's like, "Man, I put this money in with this pool, and this pool was like a pool of relatives, a pool of relatives, her relatives, who would put money in to buy a house. And what they did was they kept the money in a pool, and every month everybody would draw off of what would be the rent. But they were able to manage the house together. Maybe it's 10, 15 people go in on the house, as opposed to one person going on in the house and maybe not even getting it. He said that also the thing that was interesting was they were able to pay cash for the house, therefore being able to negotiate a much better price on what the price of the house. And I said this is amazing because we're talking about family identity in the aspects of economics, business, family identity in aspects of education, family identity in aspects of spirituality, which is the last one that I think is really, really important. The whole idea that people have somehow framed family identity around religiosity. Now, this is Ramadan. Yesterday, and shout out to my main man, Omar Kareem, after we did the iftar yesterday, we decided we were going to do, because it was Night of Power. Well, it could have been Night of Power. But what we decided to do was that we were going to go to the Turkish mosque, the Dinette Center of America. Huge Turkish mosque, $100 million. I mean, the place is just maxed out. 400 spots for underground parking at a mosque. Crazy. As we pulled up to the masjid, first of all, there was nowhere to park. Second of all, it was not. It was wall of people. The place where they do it's like big cafeteria. They do iftar. People sit out on the yard. Beautiful night last night, and then they go pray their Isha. They pray Maghrib. They pray Isha, and then of course Tarawih prayer starts. I thought the thing that was really interesting was the amount of children that were running around. The amount of children that were running around. The person that was Omar, he called when he got there and his son showed up, and he got a he got a kind of a breakdown where the rest of the girls were, and it was interesting. I'm like, man, I said this is crazy, and we could say yes, it's Ramadan, things like that. I said, but no, when you watch the line of young men when we were standing in line doing tarawih, myself, Omar, his two youngest sons, I said he's laying an important groundwork, extremely important groundwork. And I think one of the things that's really, really important about the value of a great family is that a great family, whether it stays together or not, however it endures, it has a fiduciary responsibility, if it's a great family, to lay a proper a groundwork, framework, and or pathway. When my good friend Big Brother Reginald Kitchen passed away, we had been talking about this thing about what happens to family. Like, we've been in social services for years. We've seen families tear apart, and it seemed like there was a bullseye on the back of black families and nuclear families, all of that. It was, a family was now two men and a daughter. We won't get into that. But what he said was, and I have to reiterate that, he said only God can create a divine plan for a great family. Only God can he can only construct a divine plan for a great family. And I asked him why. And he referred me to Imam Warthadean Muhammad. May Allah be pleased with him. And he said, of all the things that attracted him to this religion, it was the impetus of the African American family to stand up and say, we must openly promote our own personal, social growth and development. That these will be the pillars of a family. And I still see it today. Because when I went to the iftar last night, I'm looking at people talking about the pioneers that are no longer with us, who are standing up for, I would like to say, justice, standing against injustice, dealing with rage that's not their own, but trying to assuage, if you will, the things that are out there that keep us from being great family. So listen, I'm gonna take a quick break. I went a little over. Sorry about that. Satana, did you did the commercial thing? She probably did. We'll be right back here on the Shout Out Show talking about the value of great family. Don't you move.
Yeah. So, how can I love Allah more? I think that this is a question that I reflect on a lot because, I've always been interested in learning how to be more loving of God and what that actually means. So, what I found myself doing every time I, go inside of myself is starting from a point of deep, deep appreciation and gratitude for all of the blessings, man. It's just so much that I'm blessed with in my life, and just taking inventory of it and keeping track of it and consciously like trying to live gratefully. Like, I know that I have problems like everyone else does, but I also have an amazing number of things that are just good in my life. And, I try to focus on those things and express my gratitude, like not just say Alhamdulillah, for example, but, I have a phrase that I coined for myself, like live Alhamdulillah. And so that's all. I just try to, be more thankful to God and appreciate what Allah has given me, and tell Allah that I'm grateful, and I love you for giving me these things that some of them I asked you for, a lot of them I didn't, and I have them. And every blessing is just a reminder of how amazing my Creator is, and I should therefore be more loving. And so that's what I'm trying to do, and that's how I try to live. And it's not perfect. I don't do it perfectly. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I complain. I get frustrated. Sometimes, I act like I don't know that I'm blessed, but every once in a while, I consciously like Ramadan now, I consciously try to sit down and just say, you know what, man, in spite of all of this stuff that you got going on that's problematic right now, you are blessed. So I try to live gratefully. I try to be a blessing in someone's life if that is possible. And I think that's the best way for me to learn how to love Allah more.
Shout out to man Anwar. I really love that clip. We have some more. We have some more of our 30-day challenge to love a lot more. We're going to be showing some of those videos moving ahead. Also, want to acknowledge my little brother talking about family. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. JT, how you doing, beloved? I hope you're having a good day. Peace and blessings. Hug my babies, my little nephews. They're not so little anymore, but hug them anyway. I thought about this thing, right? Check this out. As like we have families, right? We have families. We all have families, correct? I talk about the divine design of the family. We say that it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it comes from God, but we believe that Allah has no associates and no partners. That He hasn't framed for us through His existence what a family is. He doesn't have kids. He doesn't have a wife. There are no cousins, no uncles, no associates, no partners. Isn't it interesting that really the value of great family is framed around His attributes? This is what I mean. That you look at a family member, and a family member reminds you of an attribute: all-knowing, or a great listener, a patient, sober, patient, a person who's a light, a person who is inspirational, is powerful. These are all the dynamics in a family, you know, and it comes from the Creator who has no family; he has creations. He is the diviner. He is the convener of creations, and he has no family. But the mercy of it is he's placed people in positions to do divine things. That he's given you a father and a mother. When none of us are here without a father and mother getting together and having children, right? So even in the base package, we're not saying about the quality of the mother or the quality of the father, because even in the base package, because you have parents that are not that great, some struggle, some try, some are wonderful. But my point is, it all comes out of this base package, and it's also the fact that we learn and develop logic, and I want to say not just logic, but also thinking capacity for what our family should be. Because you have stories about people who come from really, really difficult families, but then they manage to have strong families in spite of that. Meaning that something beyond whatever the negativity they might have dealt with or the trauma they might have dealt with still embodies them to say, when I get my opportunity to have my family, to develop my own blueprint, this is what it's going to be. Now, it's not even bad. Sometimes our families come from, tough backgrounds, financial backgrounds, poor. Isn't it interesting that when they get to a point where they have money, they make sure that their children are adjusted? They are adjusted for life. That they will go from a person who worked a very, very difficult job to a person who may work a corporate job. And then the same thing, they were showing you the framework and the ethics of how you get there and how you maintain it. And at the same time, how you don't go overboard, how you stay humble, how you stay away from arrogance. These are the things that are really, really important when you're talking about, yes, the value of great family. So let me get to the wrap here. In the end, you know what's great about your family. You know who the great people in your family are and why they are great. My only thing is, if you know, doggone it, tell them. Pick up the phone, tell them I love you, and this is why you're great. Mama, this is why you're great. Auntie, this is why you're great. Dad, this is why you're great. Why you have them here. And reaffirm to them that they've done a great job. I'm out. That's a shout out show. See you guys tomorrow, inshallah. Maybe even on pickleball court. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Take care.